And welcome back, bookworms and listeners, to your weekly dose of chapters being chapterized for you. We greatly appreciate your patronage and your the three little bones in each of your ears. We have Sanderson news, but not very much of it. The backer kit for the Cosmere RPG will start going live for some people who backed the RPG. They're doing it in waves to make sure that they address issues before a giant flood of people do things, which is nice of them. So, over the next 2 weeks, you may or may not get an email. Did I miss anything else?
The Mistborn deck is
light week, light day.
light day.
So, for those of you who didn't catch the latest Sanderson weekly update, previous to the one that came out today, because this recording comes out on Tuesdays, and so does their weekly update. Anyways, last week on the 30th of September, no, on the 1st of October, Sanderson made an announcement about how he doesn't like Black Friday because, for obvious reasons. So, October 29th is going to be Light Day, and they are going to have everything available on the Dragonsteel store that will be available at Nexus. So all the new merch, including the Kholin pins, part of Series 2, which includes Dalinar, Navani, Adolin, Renarin. Does it include, I think there's 5, right?
Yasna,
that's right. They're a pin set, and then they've also got that new Bridge 4 hat. Not the one that Trevor, the Sandbox, is wearing.
There's a new one?
There's a new one. It's blue, and it's the new, like, it's got like the little Bridge 4 logos all over it. Are you gonna go look it up?
I'm looking it up. Is it the one he wore on some video a few weeks ago?
That's right. That one.
It was like white and blue, right?
It was white and blue. If I feel spicy, I'll throw a picture up. I'm probably not going to feel spicy, but we'll see. So all of the items will be available on the Dragonsteel store. Of course, no guarantee about availability. And that is what they're doing. And a lot of things will be on discount. So instead of doing discounts for Black Friday, they're doing it for Light Day.
Oh, yeah.
And he's doing it based off of the middle of the weeping, where the rain stops for a day. They call that Light Day in the Stormlight Archive.
Fun fact.
Who remembers?
He's starting it October 29th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my anniversary.
Congratulations.
I saw that. I was like, nice. Babe, what is October 29th? She's like, our anniversary. Like, wrong. It's Light Day. So it went over about as well as you would think it did.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
No, she likes Stormlight. She likes Stormlight. It's fine.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I'll probably pick up the Kholin pins. That's one of the two things.
Yeah, that's what's attracting me the most would be the Kholin pin.
Oh yeah. And then the Mistborn deck builder, that if you ordered it through Dragonsteel, it comes with 5 foil cards. If you get it at Nexus, it comes with 5 foil cards. And they might have more that they're going to put up for pre-order because it sold out on Dragonsteel's website. This is going to not come out in time, but also this week, tomorrow, the day that this video will come out, they found more Wind and Truth signed copies, and by found I mean they decided that they could sell more through pre-orders on Dragonsteel. I know those went really quick last week. I think they said 10 a.m. Mountain Time, but I'm not sure. They've definitely made several announcements, so go look at their social media. In other news, I've got nothing. Does anybody else have anything?
Well, does it matter if it's Dragonsteel, or does it matter if it's Cosmere related?
Not anymore.
Okay, then the new Dragon Age comes out on Halloween.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm looking forward to that.
We got an email that they got the cards they've been waiting for as well for the Words of Radiance.
Nice.
So they'll be shipping those. I think they're locking addresses pretty soon, and then they're shipping first wave.
That is awesome.
Yes.
This is great. This is a great time to be a Sanderson fan. A Sander
Indeed.
fan. A Sander fan.
It's not a good time for my wallet, though.
It's not.
That is incredibly true, especially because it is.
Bad.
This year is also the release of a slew of new tabletop RPGs due to WotC's
D&D, Wizard of the Coast.
Yeah, all the license kerfuffle that happened with that. So it's a good year for nerds.
It's actually all of the license, not kerfuffle. We can use stronger language like.
What?
But yes, because of WotC pulling some with their license for D&D.
Didn't give me a heads up on the censor, man.
You can put it in afterwards. It's fine.
Fine.
There you go. Yeah, there were a slew of companies that decided to come out with their own RPG. We have the Critical Role group coming out with Daggerfall?
I think so. Daggerfall?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah, Daggerfall. And then we have MCDM coming out with Draw Steel, which is the one I've been following most closely.
And that's for both RPGs and for artists.
What do you mean?
Draw.
Steel. Oh, yeah, okay.
He needs to be stopped.
I'm
not gonna lie, Daggerfall sounds like the most nerdy fantasy thing
that's because
I've heard in a while.
Critical Role is the most nerdy fantasy thing.
No, I love it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Just like
I'm actually kind of curious, and apparently a lot of the Critical Role fans are as well, if once Daggerfall is officially released, if Critical Role is going to split from D&D and do Daggerfall from that point forward.
Probably. Why not?
So,
gotta make the move on
somehow. Yeah. Honestly, considering that WotC has pulled a lot of its stuff so far, has pulled some shady stuff so far, I wouldn't necessarily want to be licensed with them any longer than necessary. So.
Cool.
But anyway, that's just my opinion.
Indeed. All right, and now, very briefly, with no context given, like no extras, just state the name of a book you're reading at this moment.
The Will of the Many.
Okay. Trevor?
Ooh. Blood Rights.
Nice. And I am reading Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. There's a lot of books called Ghost
Mine
Station.
Is so by Islington? Something Islington. I don't remember the first name.
Is it Islington? It wouldn't be Islington?
I have no idea, to be perfectly honest.
90% sure it would be Islington.
That's fair. Then probably is.
Yeah. Cool. All right. If anybody else is reading books, comment them down below for fun. Even if you're listening on Spotify, you can leave comments now.
Sick.
Nice.
I do have a little short book review coming up probably this Friday.
Nice.
For a spooky season read, so
go
check that out. I put one out last month, doing another one this month just because I'm stressed for time, but I need to keep the content flowing.
Got it. The content must flow. Wonderful.
YouTube gets mad at me if I don't.
Yeah. They're like, hey, the Duolingo owl is going to come find you if you don't post content.
As a content producer, you do need to be producing that content.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So we are going to get into chapters 19 and 20 today. A lot of fun. I hope the voices I choose are okay. If they're not, I'm sure somebody in the comments will let me know. For the first time, somebody had an issue with a voice.
Which one?
Somebody didn't like how I did Yanagon, which was totally valid because I thought that I thought Yanagon was younger than he is.
He's young, right?
He is young, but then Adolin was like, he's older than than the time I won my shards. So I actually don't know how old he is.
He's like
I thought
15ish, I thought.
Yeah, so I made him a little like late bloomerish in the pubescence arena.
That's all right. I don't even remember your Yanagon, but it's okay.
Well, you're gonna hear it again today. So
oh, okay.
Maybe
I'm assuming you practice because I know you.
I thought about practicing, so we're gonna count that.
That's
okay. Sweet.
half as good.
Okay. That's half as good. That is.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll see you guys in a bit.
See you on the flip side. Yeah, it felt nerdy. Sorry. Not sorry. There we go. Maybe. Okay. Chapter 19. Ruled by Voices. A land where the king was a holy man and was concerned with the plight of the farmer beyond the appropriation of taxes. From The Way of Kings, 4th Parable. Szeth's son Honor continued to wear white clothing. That was no longer mandated. Dalinar had said he could wear what he wanted, and though Szeth was a skybreaker, he had no uniform. Even during training and official functions, they'd wear the uniform of the local guard or constables. Still, Szeth wore filmy white clothing that flapped in the wind as they flew. Still, Szeth shaved his head each day and found the faintest prickle of stubble on his scalp an annoyance. Did he do these things because he wanted to, or because they were now tradition? Life could be so full of distracting, meaningless small decisions, while the large ones, such as determining his duty to his people, were hard. So he pretended it was right to continue his routines. If they were wrong, if instead he should have a preference among many tiny options, well, that made him shudder to his core. He did like flying, though. During the day's training with the honor blades in his youth, taking to the sky had appealed to him most of all the powers. He and Kaladin's son Lirin had flown far with the storm before sleeping in a coalition camp near the base of the mountains. Now, at last, they approached the misted mountains at the edge of Shinovar. They avoided the northern border, where Shin had been loosing arrows at anyone who drew too close. Szeth figured the southern farmlands would be better. It was also close to where he'd grown up, so he knew the region. Within the rushing of the wind and the flapping of clothing in flight, he could not hear the voices whispering or screaming from the shadows. They'd been quiet for some time, so he thought he'd escaped them. It turned out they'd simply been lying in wait. "Is that the pass?" Kaladin's voice came to him, cutting through the noise, perfectly audible. Wind running permitted sculpting airflow. Such conveniences were no longer available to Szeth. Nail had granted him leave to use division now that Szeth had reached the third ideal. Unfortunately, Szeth's spren had so far forbidden him the art, although he had the skill. His spren said the time wasn't right. Regardless, it was the correct pass, and seeing it made Szeth tremble. He and Kaladin lowered to some 20 feet off the ground, then proceeded, mountains on either side. They passed stonewalker plants for now, short, stout trees with leaves pulled in before the wind, grass in tufts behind boulders or lying low in burrows. But soon they'd see. Soil, dirt breaking the stone, mud running alongside washes, sediment filling the bottom of fissures. Here was where the high storms finally surrendered, Shinovar bringing the great eastern tyrant of the skies to his knees, a place where the lazy rainfall, like a corpse that had already bled out, no longer contained the minerals that hardened into cremstone. Here life could truly flourish. Zeth's breath caught, and 2 glory spren appeared above him as he spotted mosses growing on rocks, leading to a few scraggly weeds alongside the wash. Zeth cried out despite himself and cancelled his lashings, dropping with a thump to this patch of soil. After so many, many years, his booted feet fell not on blasphemous stone. He hadn't realized how it would overwhelm him. He fell to his knees before the dandelions and stared at them. Kaladin alighted on a rock nearby. Confusion spren, like streaks of violet extending from a central point, expanding behind him. He couldn't know how beautiful this tiny plant was. Zeth reached out with trembling fingers and touched leaves that didn't pull back. "What's wrong with that plant?" Kaladin asked. "Is this a sign of the problems in your homeland?" "No," Zeth whispered. "It is merely a weed. The most beautiful of weeds." Kaladin glanced to the side, where his spren landed and appeared as a full-sized human in a skirted Bridge 4 uniform, leggings underneath reaching down to mid-thigh. Zeth had not asked why she chose that form. It was not for him to question. "Zeth," said a voice. His spren. A high spren. He still did not know its name. It had never been offered. It was not a distinction the high spren gave lightly, though some other skybreakers had been granted the names of their spren. "This emotion is unfitting of your station," the spren said, audible and visible only to him. "Do not spoil your dignity with base sentimentality. You serve the law." Zeth, with effort, forced his hand away from the plant. He stood up. Voices. Had there ever been a time when his life hadn't been ruled by voices? Would he even know what to do if they stopped? "You all right?" Kaladin said, hopping off his rock. "Oh, I'm fine," said the sword strapped to Zeth's back. "Thank you. Nobody has been paying attention to me today, but I'm famously patient. It comes from being a sword." Kaladin ignored the comment, stepping closer to Zeth. "My spren," Zeth said, "wishes me to show better composure. I obey." Zeth did not ask an explanation of the spren. He was truthless no longer, but he still did as his masters required. He simply trusted that in the High Spren and Dalinar he had chosen better masters. He stepped away as Kaladin knelt by the plant, Syl bending down next to him. The rising sun behind sent sunlight streaming through this valley into Shinovar, the land that swallowed the sun each night. Light created shadows, in the leeward side of stones, in crevices, and beneath the very blades of grass. As soon as he saw that, the whispers started once more. Voices of those he'd killed, condemning him. Kaladin poked the plant with his toe. Then again. "I knew about these," he said to his spren. "Everyone mentions them, but it's so strange. Shouldn't it have been eaten by something?" "Maybe it tastes really bad," Syl said. "Maybe that's why there are fewer proper plants in Shinovar. Our plants get eaten first because they're delicious." She leaned over farther and tapped the plant, proving substantial enough to make it quiver. "It's like a painting," Kaladin whispered. "Or a statue," Syl said. "You think it was soulcast? That it was a real plant? And someone made it into this?" Kaladin shook his head, then lifted his boot. Zeth found it amusing how Kaladin rammed his foot down, then stopped with a jerk a fraction of an inch from the plant, trying to get it to flinch. "This is a man," Zeth thought, "who pulls back before crushing a weed." No wonder you broke and gave up the spear, Szeth said, leaving your friends to battle without you. You have grown into a coward, then? Kaladin pulled up sharply. You shouldn't say such things. I should not speak truth? Szeth said, genuinely curious. Or are you saying I am not the one to tell you these things, as I have no authority over you? Interesting. That's not what I'm saying, Szeth, Kaladin said. Then you should stop talking, Szeth replied, because if you cannot explain what you mean, then why voice silly thoughts? Szeth walked on and reminded himself not to underestimate this man's skill. Kaladin deserved at least some of his fearsome reputation. Before Szeth had died his first death, he had faced this man, fighting amid debris and breaking plateaus, red lightning crashing against white. Because of that day, Szeth's soul remained only loosely connected to his body, though his after-image was less pronounced now, as if he were slowly healing from that revival. I think these plants are neat, Sel said. She seemed to be trying to distract Kaladin from his annoyance at Szeth, which was an odd emotion to be displaying in the face of true statements expressed clearly. I suppose we'll get used to them, Kaladin finally said, flying ahead without stepping on any plants. They're supposed to be all over Shinovar, hiding among the normal plants. Szeth hesitated. He couldn't help asking, hiding among normal plants? What? Kaladin said, turning in the air. Oh, they can't hide because they don't move? Still seems strange to me that they can survive. I know the storms aren't strong here, but people and animals are going to step on them. They're more resilient than you think, Szeth said. Yeah, but once the real plants retract, Kaladin said, these will be sitting out in the open, like the lone soldier in a company with no armor on. Szeth contained his amusement. His friend would not be happy to see such an emotion, and instead joined Kaladin flying along the pass. Soon they reached a point where the path turned steeply downward, giving them a view, for the first time, of Shinovar itself. Greenery covered the landscape, vines across the valley walls, grass waving on the path, trees below in a vast forest along the slope, beyond that the expansive open prairies of the lowlands. Kaladin and Syl landed beside Szeth. Here, Szeth said, these are the normal plants. There are none like those you are accustomed to. All of them? Kaladin said. All of them. An awe-spren burst around Kaladin. Then he started down the path, obviously excited. Szeth followed, though not because he was excited. This was merely where he had to be. The whispers followed. The end of chapter 19. Indeed.
Nice.
Griff. Ah, there you are. Oh, getting a snack in. Nice.
Getting my dinner in.
Nice. Cool. Well, what do we think? That was a nice little Szeth intro.
Yeah. Short
It
little
was a nice
chapter.
little Szeth intro. He seemed...
There's a lot in there. Yeah, go ahead, Griff.
I was going to say, he seemed more antagonistic towards Kaladin than I remember him being in previous books.
Yeah.
I think he's just so focused on his mission that he's just like, this is a silly outsider. Kind of like how Rock was at the beginning.
Right.
With Bridge 4. But yeah, I agree. I thought it was a little stark of a change for them.
Just like, especially him claiming the Kaladin is like a coward or whatever, that seems short-sighted.
Yeah, I personally think Sanderson is overstating character flaws and characteristics so that we remember how characters act so that he doesn't have to draw it out as much because he doesn't have as much room. Maybe.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it it is. There's something somebody said, and I don't remember what, but it's like if your characters are, if the only reason your plot works is because characters are stupid, then it's not a plot. So this isn't near that level, but the turn on a dime from appreciating the plant to belittling Kaladin for not stepping on a plant is a little. It was a little quick
Sudden.
of a turn. Yeah, it was a little sudden, but I'll forgive him. He's got 500,000 words to put into a book, and they can't all be winners. Wait, something like that. But
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts if Odium is specifically influencing Szeth with an unmade that makes him hear voices, and Szeth is attributing it to those he killed?
Which unmade would that be?
That's a great question. We have several to choose from that haven't been explored fully.
Do we know any that are known
to
up. Cause auditory illusions?
Well, so we've got Yelignar. No, but
I've got the list in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ashertmarn is one of the 3 mindless unmade. That's also known as the Heart of the Revel, which we saw, I think, in Oathbringer.
Yeah.
With Alucard's wife, right?
Yes.
I think they're done and away with. But anyone under Ashertmarn's influence are driven to debauchery and excess, so that doesn't sound like Szeth.
No, that's not Szeth.
But Otto Mistrum is so like connected with the singers that I feel like we can just discount her.
I agree.
Chemoarish. Little is known about this one. She is also known as the Dust Mother and is often conflated with the Night Watcher. There is a variety of lore associated with her, but all of it is currently unknown. In Bavland, her name is invoked as a curse. And she is considered not to be one of the 3 great mindless unmade. Digonarthus, or Digonarthus, also known as the Black Fisher, is an unmade of median intelligence. They have been recorded as active on Roshar recently, but may have been involved in the Scouring of Amia. Not much is known about this one either. Although there's an interesting quote here.
Right.
Let me no longer weep, Digonarthus. The Black Fisher holds my sorrow and consumes it. This seems pretty similar to Odium and what he does with Moash Fire. Yeah. Moloch is an interesting one to me, but he's more related with precognition and visions of the future. Right. So that's not really what's going on here. That's like with the death rattles and the diagram for Taravangian.
Sure.
Nergal, which always makes me think of Lord of the Rings, is one of the 3 mindless unmade, closely associated with Battle Rage. This is the Thrill, which they dropped in the ocean.
Yeah.
Yep. Reshafir is the Midnight Mother, or the Spawning Mother. She's related to Midnight Essence. Is there anything else here that's interesting of note? Not really. Ja-Not, Taker of Secrets. She's been so entwined with Shallan. I would be surprised if there's also a Szeth entanglement there. And then, Yelignar, like you said, known as the Blight Wind. Kind of interesting. Differs from the other unmade. Instead of having a specific physical appearance, he is capable of joining with humans or singers who swallow his gemstone, granting them command of the surges.
Yeah, apparently he was.
Hesi's. Go ahead.
Oh, I said apparently he was swallowed by Amaram during the Battle of Thalen Field.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
So there's a possibility that Chemoarsh and or Diagonarthus could be. I'm not too set on it. He could just be experiencing mental health trauma.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Could
it could honestly just be like basically a mental breakdown.
But
I think if anything, it has to do with how he was brought back, right? I was looking into it while you were reading, Alex.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't remember how Zeth was brought back. I was like, was it Odium? Was it Stormfather? No, it was Nail.
It was Nail.
And it says just on Covermine, he used a Fabrial to heal his body before his spirit departed. So I would guess that part of his spirit did leave, and there's a spiritual wound, within his spirit web that is kind of causing this effect.
But
quite possibly.
Potentially, however, if I remember correctly, and somebody in the comments will tell me if I am, he was experiencing the voices before he was killed. Or before he almost died.
Yes.
So
I wonder if it has to do with this truthless stuff that we know pretty much nothing about. And the stone, the truth stone or something like that, right? What was it called?
I'm not sure. But
I would be interested if the stone is kind of alive like the wind is, and I'm just throwing like a huge tinfoil hat theory out here, but like part of Zeth is like connected to that stone.
Could be.
I think.
I don't know how that would.
Okay, from what I remember him describing the stone, I think the stone was more symbolic. He followed the commands of anyone who held the stone.
Right.
In the same way
Oath
that
stone, that's what it was.
Yeah, the Oath Stone. Yeah. In the same way that he followed, the commands of the Shin who exiled him, even though he was sure he was correct.
Sure. For the main reason I'm thinking it has something to do with the unknown is that the voices aren't present when there aren't shadow. Specifically, he has spheres when he's imprisoned in Oathbringer and Rhythm of War to presumably banish the voices in his head, and then he just stated that the voices came back when the shadows came out. So
would that mean that
is happening?
Yeah, it could have possibly be the one that controls the nightmare or the Midnight Essence? There we go. That's what I was.
Maybe.
Also, how did Nail get Nightblood? We don't know, right?
We are going to find that out when we play the Stonewalkers campaign.
Oh, do we?
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, when you read Stonewalker in this chapter, it reminded me of the RPG.
Yep. We are going to find that out.
Random other question. Sorry to move away from this a little bit.
Not sorry at all.
Still.
What happened?
Sorry. My phone just went haywire.
No.
Sorry, give me 1 second. Turn on my Do Not Disturb.
All of the seconds.
Okay, sorry. So random thought. But still constantly becoming human size, and like Kaladin always observing it and making a note of it, or Zeth making a note of it here. I just it gets my mind going. Do Spren have identities? Capital I.
That's a good question. I think we
Because it
may
seems
have
like
lost Alex.
very easy to use. What's that?
I think we may have lost Alex. At least it says connecting on my end.
Oh, we may have. He's coming back.
Okay. To answer your question, I would say yes, probably, because I don't think they'd be able to make a bond with a Night Radiant without identity.
Yeah, that's what the cover mine says. Where is it? I lost it. But it said for the Nahel bond, there is a combination of connection and identity that is required. It doesn't say on which end though. Just that's all we know. So I'm
Just
inclined to believe it.
Just to give everybody an update, Alice just said that he will be back briefly. The internet went out on his.
Oh,
So not sure what caused that, but anyway, yeah.
Last week too.
I think that identity would be necessary for the Nile bond.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I know that Spren have these unworldly abilities, obviously, but it feels like Syl wants to be human sized. It feels like that's how she almost sees herself now.
Probably, and I think, if I remember correctly, when we go to oh crap, the fortress.
Lasting integrity.
Thank you. Yeah, lasting integrity. All of the honor spren there are like roughly human sized, correct?
Yes, but that's in Shadesmar, which is
I know. I'm just saying that it seems like
there.
Yeah. Well, yes, I realize, but my point is that I think that she is recovering a lot of her original status, as it were, where she wants to be human-sized, she wants to be doing things that humans would do, in the same way that if she had a body in Shadesmar.
Got it. Man, there was some Zeph moment here. Alex, you can just cut out this part. I'm just gonna look for it. There's something about his past.
His heist friend seems somewhat ominous. I'm not going to deny.
He's a dick.
A little bit, yeah. You're not wrong. A little bit, yeah. You're not wrong.
Literally, he's all about follow. Oh, Alex, you need to turn off that echo.
Yeah, we're getting some echo on your end.
It may not have been recording.
We discussed Syl a little bit without you.
Oh darn!
And now we're discussing.
We cracked the entire novel of Living Truth wide open when you weren't here.
Brilliant, based off of the Heistbren, and the Heistbren's a dick.
Yeah, the Heistbren's a dick.
Okay. Yeah, so Zeth, this is the part that I think we need to all look into just as a community. There's the quote: "Because of that day, Zeth's soul remained only loosely connected to his body, not capital C connected, by the way, though his after image was less pronounced now, as if he were slowly healing from that revival."
Yes.
What does that mean?
So Sanderson has directly stated, if you took a cognitive shadow or somebody's soul and you spiked it to a body, okay, as one of the ways you could connect a cognitive shadow to a body,
okay,
if that body then had access to investiture, they would heal, and eventually the body would look like what the soul thought it would eventually be.
Perfect. So this is my follow-up question: does Zeth have metal on him anywhere that we know of?
I was about to say, I was actually curious of whether or not or Nails Fabrial machine was actually a hemalurgic spike.
I think he left out that part, did it when Zeth was like kind of unconscious, and then used that Fabrial to kind of speed up that process a bit, patch up the spirit web a little bit, and then giving him the Skybreaker order so that he can heal from it over time.
I'm skeptical, and the reason I'm
He pretty much
skeptical
inducted him.
is I'm skeptical that it was a hemalurgic spike because Sanderson has said there are multiple ways to do it, and the Herald,
Okay.
being a massively invested creature, would
That
possibly
said,
have.
we also know that
That makes
Fabrials can
sense.
act in similar ways to metal mines and such. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody could craft a Fabrial that could bond a soul to a body in the same way that a hemalurgic spike could.
Sure.
I think it's a lot more fun to speculate that he does have a hemalurgic spike, because Sanderson, I think in a recent Q&A, has said that there are hemalurgic spikes on Roshar. Like there's
Here's the one
uses of
thing
hemalurgy.
Neat.
I will give Sandbox, and I think that's an interesting theory, which is spiking him, keeping his soul tied to his body, and then healing him through Stormlight so that the spike is no longer needed. And then having him bond the Skybreaker order to continue that healing without Nail's direct interference.
Right.
It's an interesting theory, and it would work. I'm not sure that's exactly what happened, but I could see that working.
Definitely. Can we talk about the opening line of this chapter and the third
epigraph?
line? No, not the epigraph.
Oh, okay.
Zeth's son Honor.
Yes, I noticed that as well, because he refers to Kaladin as Kaladin's son
Lirin.
So here's my question. Does that mean that he was... Okay, there's three ways I could see this working.
Yeah.
The first way is somehow claiming that he was directly born from Honor.
Well, he's already stated who his father was.
Right. Well, or
So, no.
which could possibly mean that Honor's energy is in Shinovar somewhere.
Okay.
The second, I'm not saying that's the most likely. I'm just saying that's one of the possibilities. The second would be the fact that possibly he was part of an order that were trained in the use of the honor blades, and therefore they got a special title based on that.
Okay.
The third, if I'm remembering correctly, were the Shin brought to Roshar due to honor?
All humans were brought to Roshar with the help of Odium, and then the Shin are just the type of human that stayed behind while the rest of them adapted to look like the rest of Roshar. So the original humans looked more like the Shin did.
Okay, then my third one doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
You can forget that. So yeah, I have two theories, which is one, Honor's energy is somewhere in Shinovar, and that has something to do with the reason that Zeth is called Son Honor, or it's something bestowed upon them when you become one chosen to train with the Honor Blades.
Could be that. Do the Shin do they worship Honor, or do they worship the heralds like Yezrian?
I don't think we know. I think
so
they worship
if he sees
the
Honor
stone
as the Almighty and not, Yezrian or whoever else
right
people worship on this world, then he maybe is seeing like, oh, I have no family anymore. I'm just a disciple of Honor.
That is, I think, that is probably where I'd lean, because we know his father died. That's what he stated, because Ishar has his blade back. He was like, you killed my father, prepare to die. Inigo Montoya style. The other thing this is kind of pointing towards like, okay, so bear with me. Zeth's son Honor continued to wear white clothing. That was no longer mandated. Dalinar had said he could wear what he wanted. So Honor and Dalinar pretty close in connection here. I'm not saying Zeth is calling Dalinar father or anything, but bonding it, having the having the high spren, and spren come from honor and cultivation and so on, um, and then having Dalinar, who has extra honor abilities beyond the normal bondsmith, he may be considering that. I have no like solid thing. I think
Yeah.
Trevor's theory there is probably the closest to what I would guess. But it is interesting, that tidbit.
Do you think
The
he
myth-
subconsciously plans to kill Ishar, who's like the king of the Heralds?
Possible. I don't know.
I guess that was Yezrian, but now that he's gone, Ishar would probably take that up.
I don't think Zeth would be strong enough to kill Ishar. Maybe Zeth and Kaladin could, with the
I
help
think
of
they're
the
going to
wind.
need to in this book if they're not going to help him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's going to be really interesting.
So I thought it was very interesting that the High Spren kind of accept the words and grant the surges as opposed
Right.
to, cultivation or Stormfather or whatever. I mean, obviously this Spren is a jerk. But why has he not granted him? Oh no, okay. Nail had granted. Oh no, okay, yeah. Nail had granted him leave to use division. Now that Zeth had reached the third ideal, unfortunately, his spren had forbidden it. Although he had the skill, his spren said the time wasn't right. So it almost sounds like this is where I get really mad. Is that this order is all about the letter of the law rather than the spirit of the law.
Right.
They follow the rules. There's a clear hierarchy. There's a clear set of instructions, and then there's clear rewards when you pass certain thresholds. And the Spren is preaching to Zeth about the rules, but then doesn't follow them himself. He's a jerk. He's a jerk. A pure jerk.
So
what the heck?
But the reason is almost guaranteed. Division, the surge, is so powerful that if Sanderson did not artificially limit it, a lot of the things that they face would be trivial. Sanderson is saving it for the back half, where Dustbringers are going to be more important. He's not wanting to use it now, so he's coming up with ways to limit it artificially that make enough sense.
I'm fine with that. I just need someone to call it out how his spren is a hypocrite.
That's fair.
I need someone to say it.
Maybe we'll see.
I mean,
maybe later when we meet Auxiliary, he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy. He's a jerk."
Oh my gosh!
I need someone to say it.
Oh yeah.
We find out it's not all high spren; it's specifically this high spren.
Yeah. No. That guy sucks. Nail gave him to him as a prank. Yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
You treated him wrong as a joke.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, I think we spent plenty of time on this one. I know the next one's super long.
The next one is super long.
Is there anything else here you want to talk about?
I think I'm good.
I don't have anything else to bring up, I don't think.
Neat. Okay.
I mean, while we're here, I could quickly shout out the arches. Are all Chanarok, herald of the Dustbringers.
Right.
Interestingly enough, so division is kind of more closely aligned with that.
Yeah. Division
makes sense.
Order. The read alonger here, Lindsay isn't sure why Chanarok is here in all 4 slots. She's asking us to try to figure that out. But her attributes are brave and obedient, and her role is guard. I'm going to assume that Zeth is being obedient to his oath, and Kaladin is kind of there as a guard.
Yep. And also the surge of division, also showing the division between Zeth and Kaladin. Just saying.
There you go.
I can keep going. Also, weeds. Weeds are horrible if you have a lawn. So you want to divide the weeds down to their base components. That was a stretch. I apologize.
I was about to say that's skating it a little bit.
I have a lot of
that's English class stretch.
I have a lot of nut sedge in my backyard, and it's annoying. For those of you who
have a lot of what in your backyard?
Nut sedge.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. That's
nuts
called.
Edge?
No. Nut sedge.
Nut sedge. Okay.
Yep.
It's better. Not a lot, but it's better.
But it's not great.
Okay.
There's also a lot of spurge. I swear to God, these are real.
With that, I am peacing out.
Chapter 20. 3 vital points of defense. I let them pass with 2 lies. From The Way of Kings, 4th parable. The small meeting room, full of monarchs seated in a circle with an outer ring of high princes, viziers, and lesser primes, grew absolutely still at Wit's words. Navani held her breath. Was it possible? What did it mean? Odium was a different person now? Voices invaded her mind. The sibling and the Stormfather, whom she'd heard only twice before, his voice echoing with thunder. Is it possible? The sibling asked. I will look, said the Stormfather. I must know. Raise. He can't just be dead, the sibling said. If a new vessel holds odium, Raise must be dead. Navani glanced at Dalinar, and he nodded. He'd heard both of them too. Wit? Navani said, leaning forward. How certain are you? I'm certain of nothing, Wit replied from his place by the wall. But this is almost certain. It is true, the Stormfather said. Odium is no longer Raise. You can tell? Dalinar whispered, so Navani could hear too. So easily? Yes, the tone has changed. Only noticeable when I looked. You are right, the sibling said. I feel it. So subtle. I cannot identify the new vessel, the Stormfather said. Take care. And Raise is gone. After all this time. You sound regretful, Navani whispered. Only that my lightning did not strike his corpse, the Stormfather spat, and my wind did not dash it against stones until it broke. His rumbling faded. I miss how the Stormfather used to be, the sibling said. He was so much happier before, not so angry all the time. The Stormfather, Dalinar said to the room, has confirmed Wit's intuition. Odium exists, but has changed hands. It's like how Spren can have a new radiant. So? Fen said, glancing around the circle, curled eyebrows shaking alongside her face. Who cares? Who cares? Yanagon said. This is our greatest enemy. Who is still trying to destroy us? She said, as evidenced by the impending invasion. I never knew the old Odium, so it's basically the same. No, Wit said. It's different. Again, all eyes turned to him as he rose and walked into the center of the circle. Even in a moment of stress like this, there was a certain showmanship to Wit. I knew the old Odium, he said, spinning around to look at them all. Our entire plan, the contract, the contest, was based in part on that knowledge. Now, I'm frightened. The old odium was deeply calcified into his position as a god, and was very unlikely to do anything that would risk that position. The new one was likely immortal before their ascension. They'll be more harsh, more willing to take risks. More, they aren't quite bound in the same way. Oh, they'll have to keep this agreement for the contest of champions. A formal agreement like that binds the power, not just the individual, something Reyes himself discovered long ago. But lesser promises, like the one made to Dalinar about not exploiting loopholes, are a different matter. He is breaking that one easily because he did not make it. So wait, Navani said, trying to understand the details. Can God break a contract, or can they not? Anyone, anywhere, can, Wit explained. God, human, spren. However, the consequences vary. For a deity, breaking a promise exposes them to destructive forces from others, and the magnitude of the broken promise often determines the severity of the consequence. So, Fen said, can we call off this contest? I don't appreciate it allowing the conquering of my entire island if one city is captured. Yes, you have that option, Wit said. You always did. But if you break the contract, Odium can retaliate in person. He could bring the full force of his powers against you without risking retribution from other gods. Fen, he could kill every person on this planet with a flick of his wrist if he wanted. Well, she said, sitting back, that answers that. No breaking contracts with gods, Kamako said from behind Fen. I'll make a note of that. And his broken promise not to use loopholes? Dalinar asked. We can't exploit that at all? He can get away with that, Wit said, and we can exploit our own, if we can find them. But that promise he made was not a formal agreement certified by oaths. This is the hand we're dealt. I'm sorry. I am not living up to my name. I should have seen this. Storms, what a mess, Navani thought. So, if the enemy, she tried to lay it out clearly, can conquer the capitals of Azer, Thalana, or the Shattered Plains in the next 8 days, he keeps the equivalent kingdom in its entirety, no matter the results of the contest? Yes, Wit said, according to Alethi law. Could we change capitals? Navani said. That is a very clever idea, Wit told her, which only a very clever person would think of. Thank you. She trailed off. You've already thought of it, haven't you? Yes, Wit said. I asked my draconic friend and got a negative response. How to explain this? He thought a moment. Alethi legal codes apply here, and they are an absolute mess. A snarl of self-contradictory codes, uncertain precedences, and insane laws that are still on the books because some drunk high prince thought they were amusing. Don't show them to the Azish, they'll have nightmares for weeks. Too late, Nora said. I began studying them the moment we started this coalition. Here's the short of it, Wit said, holding up the written-out version of Dalinar's agreement with Odium. This is immutable. This stands. What Odium's doing plays dirty, but does not break these rules. We could try to do something similar, but changing the capital, or one of a dozen other very clever things I came up with, would put us in violation. And, Kamako said, we shouldn't violate agreements with gods. I just made note of it, even. He gave a wan smile. Navani took a deep breath. All right, then. We're back to where we started, merely with a better understanding. 3 armies are heading to 3 capitals. We need to defend all 3 for 8 days and hope there are no other big surprises in the contract. I will speak to my friend, Wit said. I don't think there's anything else, but if there is, I will find it. Honestly, most of what she said was complimentary. The agreement was well done, this small item notwithstanding. The important point now is what to do next, Yasna said. We stand united, Dalinar said, looking around the room, and we do not give 1 inch of stone to him. Stargyle, let's have a map. Stargyle stepped forward, and a brilliant, shimmering map of Roshar appeared in the center of the chamber. What is this? The sibling said in Navani's mind. That is incredible. Like the work of a master sculptor, the map had fine topographical detail. It could be zoomed in until you could see cities, and zoomed out until it seemed as if you were gazing down from the moons upon a tiny continent surrounded by blue waters. Navani stood up, joining Dalinar and Stargyle at the side of the map. He really was mastering this. A few weeks ago, only Shallan had been capable of this feat. Across the map, Nora provided a taller stool for her emperor. As usual, the mink stood and started walking straight through it, causing it to fuzz into stormlight and churn in his passing, like eddies in a stream, until stabilizing again in place. It wasn't accurate to the moment. This represented the world as it had been the last time a high storm had passed. Still, its majesty took Navani's breath away every time, and she was pleased that the sibling was similarly impressed. I've encountered nothing like this, they said in her mind. How? How can you do things the ancient Radiants never did? Science is usually the product of incremental advances, shared across a body of people working together, Navani said. But sometimes that group limits you because they make assumptions. I know there are many things we've lost that the ancient Radiants did better, but at the same time, we're not limited by their expectations. All right, the mink said. He was a shorter Herdasian man, lean of build with a thin mustache and a wide, inviting smile, though his missing tooth and scarred wrists were a testament to the hardships he'd known. First things first. Here are our current troop placements. He pointed at Imul to the south of Azir. The largest group of coalition forces, with many of our stonewards and edge dancers, are here. They were fighting near the border with Tukar and Marat, and have been moving home for 3 days now. Some of those, our rear guard, 40,000 strong, are a 6-day march from Izmir. Too far, Yonaghan said. The enemy will arrive before then, and my forces are down to only a few thousand. We'll need reinforcement. Yes, Dalinar said, walking past Navani to the eastern side of Roshar. But from where? The rest of the bulk of our troops are here, holding the borders of Alethkar in the Frostlands. They'd been fighting an extended war against the enemy, and most of their clashes had been on these battle lines. Therefore, that was where their troops were. Urithiru had reserves and off-duty soldiers, but many of them had been slaughtered during the invasion and occupation. Navani had been with them trying to hold out, and the nightmare of seeing so many soldiers give their lives was a fresh wound. One she'd have to address someday, once the crisis was over. If the crisis was ever over. We don't have many troops who can reach an Oathgate in time, Dalinar said. We're stretched incredibly thin, and we can't move large bodies of troops quickly, particularly not since we'll need the Windrunners for air support. We have scouts investigating each of the armies, the mink continued. The fleet sailing for Thelana has over 200 ships. They're not good for naval combat, mostly troop transports, which is why the blockade worked for so long. Now that it's broken, though, they could deliver 40,000 soldiers to Thaylen City. Storms, Fen whispered. The force moving for Izmir is, fortunately, smaller, the mink said. Approximately 15,000, and barely a handful of fused. It seems they wanted to take us by surprise. Finally, the force marching on the Shattered Plains is almost exclusively fused, the most fearsome of armies by far, though it's only 1,000 individuals. But they attack a mostly barren region, Fen said. Not barren, Yasna said. That is the sole land my people have in exile. Those are our lumberyards, our fields, and our new budding city at the war camps. It's all we have. Still, Fen said. Let's focus on the defense of Azir first, the mink said, holding up his hand, strolling through the mountains and going to the west. The enemy will arrive midday tomorrow, best we can guess. You said you have, 3,000 city defenders? Khazal, one of the viziers, replied, Yes, General. The mink nodded to Dalinar and pointed. Navani stepped over as Dalinar zoomed the map in until they could almost make out the signs of war camps on the flatlands south of Azamir. This large army of ours is 5 or 6 days away, the mink mused. If your forces in Azamir hold out until then, you will win for certain. Even if you lose the city, that army of so many of our forces returning could maybe take it back. We can't risk that, though, Idolin said, rising from his seat among the high princes in the second row. We can't just let Azamir be taken, maybe burned. He walked through the map, and for some reason he'd summoned his shardblade, and was whispering to it? Navani sidled closer, overhearing what sounded like a quiet narration of what he was seeing. How odd. The mink squatted down so he was eye level with the map. Navani wasn't certain what advantage this provided, but he liked to do it, looking across the landscape, in this case from the perspective of Azamir. This is not a trap, he said softly, smoothing his thin, graying mustache, but the exploitation of an opportunity. They didn't deliberately draw your enemies away into a mole, otherwise they'd have struck already. They must have sent this force through Shadesmar a week ago. Ships do not materialize out of thin air. They do there, the sibling noted, though it requires stormlight. You have a strong position here, Yonagon, Dalinar said, gesturing. You may not have a lot of troops, but the enemy has to come through the Oathgate. The Skybreakers that were fighting in Amul have been withdrawn to strike at Phalana, and there are few fused with the invading army, so you don't have enemy invested to worry about. Plus, you have the Oathgate surrounded by that metal dome, right? Yes, Yonagon said, but despite that, I'm afraid. They have 5 times our number of troops. A fortification like that can be an excellent force multiplier, the mink said, but the average single troop is stronger than the human one, with their warform armor. It will be a tight defense. Normally, striking directly at Azamir would be suicide, Dalinar said, stepping up beside the mink, and taking it wouldn't mean anything. It's in the heart of the Empire. You can't expect success in an extended campaign if you're surrounded. But this isn't an extended campaign. They just have to seize Azamir and hold it for a few days. You are right, the mink said, standing with his head peeking up through the illusory map, as if he were swimming. This is an entire empire. You, Azesh word people. What happens to your empire if Azair is conquered? The viziers conferred, then went to talk to Wit. Navani tapped her fingers together in thought and didn't miss how several in the room, representatives of Emul, Yazir, Desh, murmured at this. All 3 were smaller kingdoms that were part of the complex Azish imperial state. They were autonomous in all but name, never overtly rejecting Azir's claims of dominance, but also not paying tax to the central kingdom, except occasional support for armies keeping the peace. It had worked for centuries. The smaller kingdoms gained increased political clout, and Azir was able to pretend it was in charge. The lesser primes deferred to the emperor in social matters, and Azish armies lent aid to nearby disputes. No one said the quiet part. That there was no empire, only a group of ethnically connected kingdoms who role-played as one. Except now. Unfortunately, Nora said, with Wit looking sour behind her, if Azamir falls, they all fall. An entire empire captured in one bold move. We can't risk that, Adolin said, stepping into the center of Shinovar. What we can and cannot risk, the mink said, depends on the troops. Dalinar, how many can you reasonably provide in time? Honestly, Dalinar said, maybe 20,000. I need those troops, Fen said. Dalen City will fall without them. She glanced to Yonagon. I'm sorry, Your Excellency, but you have reinforcements only a few days' march from your door, and an excellent fortification with which to resist in the interim. My situation is far more dire. What exactly are your defenses? Yasna asked, still seated, taking notes for herself quietly. We have a skeleton of navy left, Fen explained. Our ground forces, such as they were, mostly fell at the Battle of Thalen Field. Frankly, we're dependent on you for our defense now, as you all well know. We're establishing our situation, not trying to goad you, Yasna said. Let us look at the third point of attack, the Mink said. The shattered plains. These are well defended, no? Very well defended, Dalinar said. But I hate pitting conventional troops against fused. If we lose the shattered plains, Yasna said, we lose our last foothold in eastern Roshar. 3 vital points of defense, the Mink said, appearing tiny beside Dalinar. And our military is strung out, blanketing hundreds of miles of borderlands. This isn't good, Dalinar. Navani had read a lot of books on tactics out loud to her husbands, so she tried to figure out what Dalinar and the Mink would decide. Throw everything at Aesir, perhaps? It had the fewest troops, and its Oathgate would soon stop functioning for the coalition forces. At Thalena, the enemy would need to perform an ocean assault and then break through the city walls. They'd done both during the Battle of Thalen Field, but they would have a much harder time accomplishing that now, with the coalition ready for them. The same went for the Shattered Plains. Navani knew firsthand how difficult that territory was to crack. But Azamir? With enemies flooding out the Oathgate in the center of the city, mere yards from the palace? She thought Dalinar would put most of their forces there. Dalinar and the Mink shared a glance, and from their expressions, Navani knew she was missing something. What? I see your concern, Uncle, Yasna said from her seat, Wit just behind her, one hand on the back of her chair. What is it? We have limited troops we can mobilize on such short notice, Dalinar said. If we spread ourselves too thin, we lose everything. We have to assume the 40,000 coming to Azamir will be enough, Yasna said, seeming proud that she'd figured it out. Because if we commit more troops there, they'll be locked away behind a non-functional Oathgate, a fate the 40,000 will already suffer. So we send only a few thousand to hold out there, and split the bulk of our forces across the other 2 fronts. Yes, the Mink said, sounding reluctant. That is the best plan. A skeleton force to Azamir, the bulk of our conventional troops to Thalen City to hold the walls, which are useless without troops on them. Yanagon stood up from his throne. This leaves us alone, least defended, abandoned. Your Excellency, Dalinar said, turning, we're not abandoning you. We're not making decisions right now, merely working through our options. But the truth is, you have that excellent fortification surrounding that Oathgate, and you have 40,000 friendly troops on your doorstep, along with all of the Radiants who were fighting alongside them. We walk a delicate line, the Mink said. If we overcommit to Aesir, which will soon have far more troops than it needs anyways, we'll lose everything else. We must do all we can to hasten the force already on its way to Azamir and not leave everything else undefended. Navani, how confident are you in the tower's natural defenses? Sibling? She asked. The lights in the room dimmed. A glowing column of light appeared from the glass disc in the ceiling, extending to a matching one below. The sibling's voice spoke to all of them. They will not come here. Fused will fall unconscious. Regals will have their form stripped from them. Even common singers will lose access to their rhythms, and my beats can drive them mad. They know that. Now that I've returned, they know. The room stilled. Well, that seemed a step forward. Only a few days ago, the sibling would barely speak to Navani. That sounds conclusive, the Mink said. So, Dalinar, we can empty Yurathiru of your 20,000 and send the bulk of them to shore of Thalena. We cannot lose the island. If we do, we will give up the seas entirely. The Shattered Plains might be able to handle themselves. We can pull in some outlying forces, centralized at Narak. Pardon, Sigil said, but the scout reports are frank. The fight at the Shattered Plains will face thunderclasts, heavenly ones, deepest ones, and more. That's suicide for conventional troops without support. He's right, Dalinar said. We'll need our radiance there to counter their invested. And Aesir? Yanagan said from where he stood. We defend Thelena and the Shattered Plains, but what do we send to my homeland? You mentioned at least a skeleton force to help me hold on until the army arrives? Yes, Dalinar said, rubbing his chin. I think your fight is the most winnable. That dome fortification is incredible. I disagree, the Mink said. The defense will be more difficult than you think, Dalinar. The dome will offer a clear killing field, but Singer forces are well armored, good versus arrows. If you were defending against humans, you could hold it easily. Against Singers? He shook his head. Yes, but a small number of troops should be able to hold for a few days, Dalinar said, gesturing toward Azimir on the map. We must send the bulk of our troops to Thalen City to man the walls. But what if we sent the best of our troops to that dome? I don't know, the Mink said. One misstep and that dome will fill with enemies like a boil on a finger, waiting to pop. Then they'll flood into the very heart of the city. No, I wouldn't want to try to hold that. It could be a waste. We maybe should send nobody, evacuate, and then let the returning army of 40,000 reclaim Azimir once they arrive. That's too much of a risk, Yanagan said. What if it were your homeland, the Eno? The Mink looked up, then took a deep breath and nodded. Yes, you are right. Of course you are right. I'm sorry. Sometimes a love of tactics overshadows the heart. We must do what we can. Our best, then, to Aesir. Enough to hold, but not so much to weaken other fronts. But who will lead them? A beat. The room quiet. Navani held her breath. I'll go, Adolin said, stepping into the illusion. Father, let me recruit 2,000. I'll ask for volunteers for what might be a difficult fight, and gather the best of them. With them and the Cobalt Guard, I'll go to Aesir and hold that city until reinforcements arrive. Dalinar glanced at Navani. The Mink's words seemed to have unnerved him. What of the other two battlefronts? He said at last. Who leads those armies? I will need to prepare for my contest, and I suspect I won't be available. I'm no general, Fen said, and Kamakul is a navy man. I'd like some generals with some ground force experience. What about me? Yasna said, finally rising. I've fought in Thalen City before. I could go, bring generals to determine our strategy, and take command of the 20,000 there. Navani held her tongue. Yasna had been eager for chances to prove herself as a tactician, as if she didn't have enough to occupy her mind. Still, Yasna was perhaps the most dangerous Radiant they had. A good choice, Dalinar said. Fen, what do you think? We'd welcome the Queen, Fen said, especially if I can get stonewards to seal up the breaches in their wall, should it get knocked down again. We have a few, Dalinar said, likely doing the mental math. They didn't have as many stone wards as they did edge dancers and windrunners, and most were already in the group marching for Azimir. I can send those, along with some edge dancers, to heal the wounded. Excellent, Yasna said, settling back down. I'll begin forming a strategy and discuss it with our generals. Windrunner Sigzil, Dalinar said. You take command of the Shattered Plains. Sir? Sigzil said. We'll want a Radiant in command there. I'll send the Stormwall to back you up, and you can rely on our generals for tactics. But the Windrunners are our largest and most decorated group of Radiant soldiers. You should lead. Sir, Sigzil said, saluting. And me, father? Adolin asked, stepping closer. Why do you hesitate? I'm just thinking, Dalinar said, and Navani could tell he didn't want to get into it in front of everyone. Have I failed you too many times? Adolin asked. I didn't say. Dalinar took a deep breath. Majesty, Yanagan said to Dalinar, his tone fierce. Your son is the most accomplished swordsman in Alethkar, perhaps the world. He was trained in warfare by the Blackthorn himself. I'm certain my generals would welcome his aid. Navani wasn't so certain. She'd seen how jealous soldiers could get when someone outside their command structure showed up and took charge, but she held her tongue. Father, Aelin said. The enemy at Azamir won't have many fused. In Shadesmar, I saw some heavenly ones, but mostly ships full of common soldiers. We can contain them. Let me go. Dalinar towered over the center of the map. Eventually he nodded. A good plan. You may go, son, and you may recruit up to 2,000 of our best, as you wish. Excellent, Adolin said. Thank you, Yanagan said. We should start now. We cannot waste time. The next few hours will be critical, Dalinar said. If the monarchs are agreed, we can break this meeting for now, though send your generals in to speak with the Mink and me. We will spend the next few hours going over strategy for each battlefield in detail. Immediately the Azish contingent started moving, picking up their seats. Adolin started to join them, then hesitated at the edge of the map. He and Dalinar locked gazes. Just go hug him, Navani thought, stepping up to Dalinar and putting her hand to the small of his back. Wish him the best. Tell him you believe in him. Neither spoke. Then Adolin spun on his heel and hurried toward the door. Navani sighed. What? Dalinar said to her. He wants little to do with me these days, Navani. It's best I let him go. He needs his father, Navani said, regardless of what he wants. You're simply going to let him walk out? We don't have time for his drama, Navani, Dalinar said. Whatever I do, it won't be good enough for him. I fear if I ask him for something, he'll do the opposite. He trailed off as he noticed that Adolin had stopped by the door. To Navani's delight, he turned around and came back. Father, he said reluctantly, Shallan sent me with a message you need to hear. Navani felt her eyes widen as Adolin gave a brief, far too brief for her taste, recounting of some things Shallan had told him. A group of foreign spies, working for off-world interests, in Urithiru? Recruiting Shallan when she was still new and isolated on the plains? That girl. That storming girl. She should have come to them with this. Navani forced her anger down. Shallan had, for better or worse, been trained by Yasna, who kept these kinds of secrets as a matter of course. She's moving against them now, Adolin said. She needs authorization for an operation and a Radiant Strike Force. I don't like the idea, Dalinar said, of authorizing a strike on a group I barely know anything about. It means putting a lot of trust in someone who has apparently been lying to us all. Something, Adolin said, you know absolutely nothing about. Inwardly, Navani groaned. The two met each other's eyes, and she considered intervening. But storms, they were going to work it out eventually themselves. You're supposed to be above jibes like that, son, Dalinar said softly. I raised you to be better. Raised me? Adolin said. Anger spren pooled like blood at his feet, one of the few varieties of spren that ignored her orders. You didn't raise me, father. You killed the woman who did. Dalinar winced. This isn't the time. It could be, Navani said, wanting to grab them both by the arms and tow them off to talk until they worked it out. No, Adolin agreed. Not right now. Father, I want you to authorize Shallan's strike. Time is of the essence. Please. Dalinar sighed, then nodded. We'll reach out to her for what she needs. Storms. They seemed so close. Finally, Dalinar opened his mouth. Her heart leaped, expecting the apology. Instead, it was a gruff, You might need help with the Azish. You don't speak their language. I can get an interpreter. I can do better, Dalinar said, taking him by the shoulder. Stormlight streamed off Dalinar. I can give you a bondsmithing to help. It won't work anywhere but in Azir, but while you're there, it will let you understand them. It should last a few weeks. Adolin grunted. They stared one another in the eyes. Then, Adolin nodded and left without another word. Navani sighed, her heart bleeding for them. Why? She asked Dalinar. Why didn't you say more? He always throws it back at me, Dalinar said, his thumb and forefinger massaging his forehead. And in a way, he's right. Navani. I didn't raise him. He was always just so perfect, all on his own. Or with Evie's help, I suppose. I now realize I never did anything other than order him around. And letting it fester will make it better? I don't know, he admitted, but this really isn't the time. I've got a strategy meeting I need to lead. After that, though, I need to tell you about something even more important. He seemed concerned. I need your counsel, that of Yasna and Wit, too. Maybe Fen. She frowned. What is this? On the way to the meeting today, Dalinar said, his expression distant, I encountered a god. The end of chapter 20.
Whew. Your throat okay? That's a marathon.
That was good. I was pleasantly pleased with how few mistakes I made and how I didn't really mess up the accents. And I've finally found my Dalinar after a few chapters.
Sounded great.
Yeah, there's a trick. So in choir, when you want to sing lower and like make it come out more, like you're a bass and you're singing at the very low edge of your range, if you slant your mouth down, it pulls that forward. So I was like, well, let me try that with Dalinar. And that I think in my head sounds at least like a good enough separation from like the Stormfather or Adolin, and
It sounded pretty similar to what's his name? The guy who does the audiobooks.
Oh, Michael Kramer?
Yeah, Kramer.
Oh, thanks, man. I'll take that as a compliment.
You should.
Yeah. Yeah, I should.
So there is a map on the read along that sums up like 70% of this chapter. So for those of you listening, if it's just really dense and you're having a hard time tracking where everything is, there's a great map on the read along on reactormag.com. Find that, pull it up, and you can kind of parse out what the situation looks like at a bird's eye view.
Yeah,
pretty
really
neat.
Cool. Good job to whoever made that. It was
it was the guy who did this, Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Girl.
Nice.
Yeah,
that was really useful. This really solidified how early on we were going to get to the point where they started sending the people off, because the back of the book blurb, right? Blurb, had Yasna, Thalina, Adolin at Aesir, Sigil on the Shattered Plains. So this is really setting it up. We did get a neat little bit of bondsmithing at the end there, with Dalinar letting Adolin understand Azish. So I don't know if we've seen him give somebody else that ability before. I know we've seen him give himself that ability. So that was nice, just connecting his son to the Azish. Although you mentioned, did you catch how he mentioned it should be good for 2 weeks?
Yes.
What does that mean? Are we going to get more than 10 days? More than 10 days confirmed. Just kidding.
I think it at least will last for the rest of the book.
Yeah, that's probably all it meant.
And I think it's probably just a detail that Sanderson would, like, if someone asked him how long would this last, he would throw out some random number in a Q&A, but like for the book, he has to like, okay, no, how long would it last? And then talking with his, his world building peeps, they're like, 2 weeks. All right.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So, yeah, that's probably it. Yeah. Just so he wouldn't get those questions, and it does make sense that somebody would say how long this would last. So
yeah, at a certain point, you need to establish the limits and like hard, lines and stuff. And I think this is just one of those like, about 2 weeks, good enough answer.
Good. Yeah, that is good enough answer.
So I feel like.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that I feel like a lot of it is just war talk, and the more interesting bits are Navani's thoughts, a little bit of the siblings' thoughts, but then
Yeah.
the Adolin Dalinar piece at the end,
Yeah.
I think was the more interesting.
Yeah. Sanderson did a good job with point of view for this chapter, because we wouldn't have been able to hear. We would have been biased one way or another if we had gone in Adolin's head or Dalinar's head.
Yeah,
Adolin's head
I think it
wouldn't
was
have given
perfect
us.
choice.
Yeah, Adolin's head wouldn't have given us Sibling and Stormfather. Dalinar's would have, but only for part of it. And then, yeah, so perfect choice for point of view. We got
Definitely.
We got a lot of setup for what's coming next, is really what we got. We got an answer to why they can't just move the capitals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Though, what if they took their own forces and what if the Alethi took over Thalen City and Aesir? I mean, come on.
What if they just gave up those other ones and just went for Alethkar?
Oh,
that would be funny.
Play Odium's game, like, all right,
Yeah.
just take back Alethkar.
Yeah.
You send the house over there. we'll go take Alethkar and Herdaz or whatever.
Absolutely.
I think Herdaz was part of the contract, but yeah. Obviously he can't do that out of like a sense of duty to the coalition.
Absolutely.
It's kind of
no.
That's what we call a dick move.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And even and Sanderson even called that out by having Yanagon say, "What if it was your homeland?" To the Mink.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what if? So similar to how. So spoilers. I mean, spoilers for everything. So Shy from the Emperor's Soul can change an object's past, because that object exists. An object or person, like their past, exists in the spiritual realm. Could Dalinar try to change the contract by going into the spiritual realm and editing it somehow? I don't
think he's going to be able to manipulate the past, because that's essentially going into the past and changing it. That's like
it is.
That's just time travel with less steps.
That is time. Yeah.
It's also like a shard level, like maybe even above a shard level of like power. Like that's something Ruin would have done. You know what I mean?
On top of that, the fact that Odium and all the shards exist, like their power exists in the spiritual realm. Like if it was possible to alter the contract, like literally alter what Wit wrote down for Dalinar to say, so that he said something different, which is time travel changing the past. Even if that were possible, Odium would be right there watching. Like there's no way Odium's power is not looking for something like that. So I do think
No, I think they're just going to be looking. Like I think we'll learn how Honor died and like what all happened there, and maybe they'll look into the future to see. I just don't know why they would. They might do that to make more sense of Renarin's visions that he's going to be having in this book. And maybe Relaine.
Both of them together.
What does Yasna do in this book? She's going to go to Azir, right?
She's going to Thalen. She's going to Thalen, the Thalen city.
Because I feel like she's the more valuable one to take to the spiritual realm, because she's the historian. She knows where like all the holes and stuff are. So she would be able to make more sense.
But also
of the past, right?
Navani also went to a lot of the visions with Dalinar and Yasna. So Navani helping.
Right. But if there's like some huge twist to the history that they don't recognize, because Yasna's the one that would be like, oh wait, that goes against what we thought here. And then maybe that's like some hole in like, oh well, Odium did this thing to like kind of manipulate our perception of that, right? I don't know if Sanderson's going to go that route, but like I would imagine she brings more value to that journey than anyone else.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and I expect now that you're saying it out loud, honestly, like so Navani and Dalinar, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some way that they're going to be able to communicate back and then also be able to communicate with Yasna, so that could be a plot point.
Yeah, I'm sure you could just connect somehow.
Because if Dalinar goes into the spiritual realm, and this is just guessing what happens, but Navani anchors herself in the physical realm and tethers to Dalinar and could contact Dalinar as needed, then Navani could also span read Yasna, and when Yasna comes off the battlefield, which she'll inevitably have to do.
I think that'll be Wit's role. Like
Yeah.
Wit's not going to want to go into the spiritual realm, but he'll help out with like all
Something.
that
Hopefully.
realmatic jargon.
Yeah. Or I think it'll at least be talked about that Yasna doesn't get to go back and do the history stuff. I think you're right. That is an odd choice, except
maybe
like Navani
maybe Hoyt has another white bone thing that he can just give to them.
Yeah.
Be like, connect yours to mine, and then we'll just call
a telebone.
Yeah. Rafa had a good.
I know, I saw that.
You saw that with the
that
skeleton phone thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was
Skelephone.
clever. Good job, Cosmere. Not. But I could just. So I was thinking about this earlier today, and like Yasna going out to the edge of the ocean and just forming giant crystals, like else calling giant crystals out of nowhere to stop the ships from landing. I mean, Yasna is a beast. Navani said it here. She's probably the most dangerous radiant they have. That's a clear signal that, the history stuff's happening, but Yasna is also super powerful. So
yeah. I mean, she could literally just turn the ships to like water, and they'll just like all sink.
Right. I wonder how they're gonna do Stormlight. Like,
what's her range? Do we know? Do you know from the RPG like what their range is for that? Like, do you have to be like right next, be able to touch the bead in the in Shadesmar? Can you just like do it from afar?
I believe that there is a skill you can take to allow you to do it from a distance. But I'm going into my folders and I'm pulling it up right now.
Yes.
Because I'm a nerd and I love it. Else call.
While you do that, I'm going to read the fan theories that the read-alongers noted out this week. First one comes from Discord user Lofty, talking about the chapter 18 epigraph. Watch Brandon drop something like the mystery place was Ashen. The phrasing indicates that they were in search of one, or maybe the one, not that they knew much about the place. That's why I'm leaning towards that possibility. Someone else, Jiangdo from Reactor's preview, says this about Adolin. I really hope Adolin doesn't become Odian's champion. His bitterness towards Dalinar is definitely going to be a recipe for disaster.
Rough.
I was thinking about that during the chapter reading. I see it more as a sad ending for Adolin if he never gets the chance to tell Dalinar, like make amends and like bury the hatchet and tell him how he really feels, you know?
Completely agree.
But I don't think Sanderson will rob us of that emotional journey. So, and the last one here is Zada wants to talk about Honor's shard. Here's my thing. While readers have been speculating that Honor could somehow be remade or reclaimed, presumably at great effort, now Cultivation just walks in and straight up tells Dalinar that the shard is intact and where to find it. So now my mind is spinning around this question. If such a huge piece of the puzzle is so minor that we get it for free, what is Brandon holding back for the huge reveal? I think it's just as simple as, well, what happened to Honor to make him die?
Right.
And why didn't he fully go away? Why has Honor not been like seeking a vessel? It seems like maybe that was the intent for Stormfather going out to Gavilar and then Dalinar, but it's been over 4,500 years because that was from the prelude to now, and there was a lot of time before the prelude. When did Honor die? Do we know? I
It's
should know
before the
this.
Oath Pact, right? So like
I don't
8,000
know.
years? Or no? Do we know?
I don't know. Death. Let's see. Um, doesn't say. He died and his shard was splintered shortly after the Recreants,
Oh,
around 2,000 years before the True Desolation.
okay.
Oh, so it's like recent then,
So the
right?
heralds were already they already abandoned the Oath Pact when Honor was killed? What? That's mind-blowing.
Tanavast's cognitive shadow merged with the Stormfather, along with the largest portion of Honor's remaining power. Wait, is that true? Where does that what is that coming from? Um, it's coming from an AMA in 2015. That might be outdated.
Might be outdated, but also like we know that the Stormfather is a splinter of Honor or holds a splinter of Honor, so
Oh, maybe so Tanavast's cognitive shadow, is that what's fused with the Stormfather, and the power is just somewhere in the spiritual realm?
I think that's what Cultivation was saying.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Why do I no
Okay,
longer
I did not
have
know that.
why do I no longer have the file that has the Radiant Order
I hacked
information?
your computer and deleted it. Sorry.
Damn, dude. Damn. Back
Well,
at
while
it
you continue
again
looking for that one,
with the great
chapter
payment.
20, the Arch has two people in the 4 slots. We have 2 of Yezrian and 2 of Wit. Yezrian is the leader, and Wit is in the chapter. So I feel like the leaders, the coalition, talking battle strategy, and Wit, imparting a lot of knowledge here, especially as it relates to shards and rays and stuff. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
I agree. Here we go.
But we got more with the epigraphs this week than I feel like we've gotten so far from day 2. The 2 we got this week are a land where the king was a holy man and was concerned with the plight of the farmer beyond the appropriation of taxes, and 2, I let them pass with 2 lies. So last week it was they were going to a mythical land, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we're getting more information that the land is where the king was a holy man. My mind goes to 2 places. It goes to either one of the heralds or Nohadon.
Well, it's Noadon telling the story or telling the parable,
Right,
right? So then
right. So is he leaving his own land?
well, that's a good question, and it depends on what it means by parable,
Yeah, I mean it could just be a story.
right? Just like from the Bible,
But
there's
if
parables.
it's coming from his own life and it's supposed to be a lesson of sorts, what if Nohadon became a herald and he's still here the whole time, but we just don't know because they're all crazy?
That would be
What
something.
if it's a Shar? No, it couldn't be
Oh my
right.
gosh. I don't think so.
Dude, what if it's a Shar and when they make him sane,
Come on,
like
man.
Dalinar recognizes, like, I know these words, like you're Nohadon.
But
I mean,
Dalinar saw him in the visions and would have connected it to
well, yeah, maybe. Maybe
maybe.
unless he changed his identity. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but it's a stretch.
What do we
I'm,
know about Ishar? I
I
mean,
see
yeah,
the
I mean it could be anybody,
tinfoil.
but
I see the tinfoil under your hat there.
I almost wore my aluminum beanie.
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
do it next week.
Nice. Nice. Yeah,
Tinfoil hat.
I mean, I really feel like I'm going to take parable at face value and treat it like it was a parable from the Bible, and so it's not something that actually happened, but Noadon is trying to get a point across, and we just
Mhm.
haven't gotten the whole picture of what that point is
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But it might be something about like, the grass is greener where you water it or something like that. Like, you shouldn't have left your farmlands to go in search of a kingdom where a king cares about the farmers. You should have made the king you're under right now care about the farmers or something like that. That would be
Could be.
silly, but it could be.
I wonder what the 2 lies are. I let them pass the 2
I know,
lies. Maybe he
right?
didn't. Maybe he didn't tell them that he was the king.
Yep. Or
If it is Nohadon.
Or he could have not, or he could have refrained from telling him the mythical land doesn't exist. Or did they have to
Ooh.
tell him lies?
Oh, maybe it's that. Well,
That wouldn't make very much sense.
yeah. Maybe they have assumptions and he just doesn't correct them. I don't know.
That might be
Yeah.
it.
I don't know. What was your favorite moment from today's readings?
My favorite moment is whenever Wit does a monologue and I get to say it because I like doing Wit's voice.
Nice.
But also, Kaladin not stomping the weed was memorable. What was yours?
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not even sure. It didn't feel like the most impactful week for me.
Yeah, this was definitely building up.
Yeah. Like if anything, I do like just seeing them talk strategy. It was a little much for me. I like Navani's insights and like seeing it from her perspective a bit.
Yeah. I liked the
Especially
bit.
her relationship with the sibling.
Yeah, and the bit where she was like, I've read so many tactic books. I know the tactics. Like, you go, girl. You get them.
Yeah. I probably Wit's line about like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm glad I thought of it.
That was
Like,
funny. That was
yeah.
that was pure sass.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're due for a Zeth flashback pretty soon.
I think we are due for a Zeth flashback.
Now that we're
in
yeah,
Shinovar.
yeah, now that we're
Absolutely.
in Shinovar.
I bet.
Because
Yeah,
we know this is what I was gonna say earlier, is that we've already gotten a couple of the flashbacks from readings over the past couple of years.
that is true.
And there's a part that lends credence to the theory that maybe Zeth learned to hate his father, which maybe is another reason why he would have said Seth Zun honor.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that that's not how he originally saw himself,
That is correct.
like in this series. So it's probably more because he learn recently that his dad died, or am I crazy?
That was the end of Rhythm of War.
Yeah.
So
So if he
3
learned his
days
dad
ago.
died, then now he's going with Seth's son honor.
Yes. Yeah, so the backstory chapters, I feel, without spoiling them, I feel like they're leading straight up to how Zeth became truthless.
Yeah, I mean, we need to learn what truthless
Straight up.
is.
And
So, what he was considered truthless because he said the Knights Radiant were coming back, or
that is
why?
what we are led to assume.
Or that a desolation was coming?
We're led to assume that it was
know.
about the Knights Radiant coming back because when he sees Kaladin heal himself from the Shardblade wound in Words of Radiance, when Zeth attacked Dalinar, Adolin, and Kaladin near the beginning of the book,
Mm-hmm.
Kaladin healed himself and Zeth freaked the F out
Right,
and was
right.
like, but I am truthless. Have the
Yeah.
Searchfinders returned or whatever?
So I wonder how he learned that. Did he see a Knight Radiant? Did a Shar or someone,
Exactly.
some herald, something tell him? Did the wind tell him? Or was he starting to bond one himself? Tien style.
I personally believe so. Light spoilers for preview chapters that Sanderson read at Dragonsteel 2023, the end of the last chapter Sanderson read had people on a ship coming, like it seemed like they were going to attack Zeth's family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is going to lead to an encounter with a Radiant that his father is not going to believe him. Nobody's going to believe him that it happened, but it did.
Oh, so he like saw something,
So
and then after in the aftermath, he talks about it. Ooh.
Right, because they have the honor blades, so like they could defend.
So why are the Shin? Why would they be so against the Knights Radiant coming back? It's because they believe they're protected from the desolations now.
It's got to, maybe it's something to do with a stone. I don't know. I honestly, that's like the most confusing part. Like the context.
Yeah, like why? Yeah.
The context is he's truthless because he said the Radiants were back and nobody believed him. Like Chicken Little and the sky was falling. Why do the Shin care?
What other crimes have like equated to someone being considered truthless in the past as well? Is something I would like to hear about.
That would be neat. That would be good.
Like the last one that did it said something crazy, and then that's just like, the Knights Radiants are back.
It could be. They could
Our heroes.
Because they were holding the honor blades, but were they willing to give them up? And if they weren't willing to give them up, then having the Radiants return means that it could be the true desolation and the Heralds would come back for the honor blades, and that would put them at risk. I don't know. I can't wait to find out. Hopefully this book or through the Stonewalkers campaign.
Is there an unmade that makes them like super greedy?
I would think a Shertmarn would, but a Shertmarn was in Alethkar, so I don't think she got it.
I don't know. Let us know all your craziest theories in the comments, because I bet someone's closer to it than we are. But there's something there.
Haxorus, leave us your theories down below. You always leave good theories.
Yes.
Some of you other guys and girls leave good theories. Other people, leave all of your theories. Somebody left some good ones about Kelsier.
Love me a good Kelsier theory.
And possibly he might ultimately try to get a shard himself. If the ultimate goal is to protect Adriel. I mean, that seems
autonomy.
Like
he's set up for autonomy so hard.
Oh, he is. You're right.
I made a meme on TikTok, but it's something I've been thinking about now more seriously is like, I really want to see this interaction. I want to see Nightblood and Kelsier in the same room together, because that would tell us if Kelsier is evil or not, right?
That would be funny.
I need to know. Sanderson would write it super ambivalent.
Yeah. Does Nightblood actually sense evil, or does he think anything could be
he
evil?
offers up a chance for everybody, and I don't know, I guess the pure of heart or like people with good intentions don't pick it up and try to kill, right?
I guess so, yeah.
That's it. If I remember correctly from Warbreaker, which I probably don't. Yeah, like Vasher uses Nightblood more as a distraction than a weapon.
That's true. It's horrifying.
Still like, there you go. Have fun.
Actually a bit. Warbreaker is a horror novel.
Is it? I think it's smut.
Oh my god.
It's actually something I have to think about a lot for my next video, but
oh no,
I'm working on an adaptation video for Arrow 1, and Warbreaker is like the one black sheep, because it's just so not romantic, it's so sexual, but also like he cuts around it, he skirts around it so well, and I just don't know how you do that in a movie or a TV show without it being overly silly. So I don't know.
I mean, in a way, that's kind of the point. Like this,
Could debate that.
This
But
ritual was happening where the woman has to get naked, but then the God King has no idea what to do. That is pretty funny.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be pretty funny. I think a good actress for it might be someone like a younger Kristen Bell.
Oh, okay.
She would have rocked that. I also think now I feel like what's her name? Millie Bobby Brown might do good as Siri. Especially after that dragon movie she was in.
That was a funny movie. That was a good movie.
That was a good one. I think she could pull it off.
I think so too.
Depends
Griff,
how long they wait.
Griff, what was your favorite moment?
It's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
I think it was actually seeing Kaladin's response to Shinovar, or the way that Shinovar is completely and utterly covered in non-moving plants.
Yeah, that was nice. That was powerful. Somewhat. You know, nature is beautiful and terrifying. Damn nature, you scary.
Honey Badger don't give a F.
I'll be interested to know if Shinovar has created any plants that are non-moving in the way that our plants are, but still new species.
Almost guaranteed, no. Just kidding. Just kidding. But he did use the word dandelion, so
Yeah,
that's just a word in place of weed. That, like, their most common weed is a very common weed here. So dandelion.
Well, like, even if they have some of the plants that we are used to, I wonder if they've bred new ones
through, I'm sure.
Selective, not breeding exactly. You know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah. You definitely couldn't end up with the same. I mean, like, you could, but like, the chances are that if you restarted Earth and ended up with the same plants, very unlikely.
Yeah, true.
You probably get a lot of the non-vascular plants looking a lot similar, but then once you get to the flowering plants, it's game over. The way that they reproduce, guys, it's crazy. There's whole textbooks devoted to it, and nobody understands it.
Pandora is really just future Earth confirmed.
Yes, that's right. James Cameron had dreams about the future Earth with giant purple aliens.
Oh God! Don't even.
It's like Interstellar. As they traveled to this planet, they went forward in time and just boomeranged back to Earth.
Okay, so
confirmed.
It was Planet of the Apes. It was Planet of the Apes the whole time.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
That hack.
Yeah. James Cameron stealing ideas from the 70s.
You know what we call that? We call that plagiarism, Cameron. Okay. Can't do that. Can't do that.
Will Smith is going to make a movie kind of like.
Wasn't there like after?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a Will Smith, Jane Smith movie After Earth? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was awful. Oh, it was so bad.
That's why I've never seen it.
Yeah, I avoided it.
I saw it when it, not like the day it came out, but no, I saw it long ago when it was in theaters, and it was bad. It was not good.
Alas, you should sue Will Smith for money back. Anyways, it is getting to my bedtime, and I need to go read my wife some Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. So, Griff, if you will sign us off.
Until next time, don't panic, World Hoppers.
Life before death, strength before weakness.
Auxiliary before Zet's jerk spren before destination.
Nice.